What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 257 of the VK Bros with Jason and Alex Von Cannell. Coming at you on a beautiful, sunny and crisp Friday morning. How are you going this week, Alex?
Very good, very good. It is a bit chilly. When can I talk about my gym testing?
You can start off with it now, if you want.
So testing block. So all the preparation leads to this, this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, I'm up on everything.
Nice.
So I'm putting this out here, not just as a gloat, but as holding myself, personally responsible.
Mm-hmm.
My bench press last time was 135 kilos. I did 140.
Nice. That's huge, by the way. Just for anyone playing at home.
We do assault bike as many calories as you can do in 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a hard one for other people to test because every bike is different.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
Every brand of bike. But I did 35 cals, and they said sort of anything in the 20s was good.
What was that compared to your last testing?
We haven't done it this style, so this is like a new baseline, essentially.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'll say to that too. I avoid conditioning as much as I can because I really don't enjoy it. And I've had that knee issue, so anything running related, I haven't really done it. And,
yeah. Any excuse will do, mate.
Yeah, but
my knee.
I have pages of excuses. But what I have noticed is when I do some of the stuff, having that power really helps. Like you just get a really big score up. Like I can rip that machine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it falls off. It does fall off.
The problem is this is what always happens with certain types of athletes. You've got fast twitch athletes and slow twitch athletes, and you're basically turning yourself into Conor McGregor. You got that power in the first round, and then the rest of it, you're in big trouble. So you better land that knockout punch in the first round, or it's going to be a very long day for you.
Well, speaking of, the next one was like a measuring on the false sticks, like how much your vertical leap, so hands on hips, jump up. I was actually pretty happy with the number, which is 33.7 centimeters.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a big jump, especially when you look at a small, like a standard rule, and you're like, oh, I'm like just clearing
You're a ruler plus GST. Yeah.
Yeah. But an interesting data point is that when my landing sent the thing off the chart because I land with 6,600 newtons of force, which essentially means I've got wooden legs. So that's something I'm going to work on.
Yep.
My squat, so my previous squat was back squat, that is, was 160 kilos. I did 162.5.
Nice.
This is the one I'm actually most proud about. So it's a rowing Tabata. So it's 20 seconds, so rowing machine, 20 seconds of work, 10-second break, 8 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And for every meter above 100 meters per round, you get a point.
Mm-hmm.
For every meter under, you lose a point.
Got it.
I've never scored in the positives. So my best score prior to this was -4.
Right.
I scored +16.
Nice. That's a massive improvement.
So I'm really happy with that. Military press, so that's just barbell and strict no legs straight above the head. My previous was 75 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
I did 82.5.
Nice.
It's funny because this is supposed to say chins, but it says China. My previous best was 8 chin-ups.
Mm-hmm.
I did 12.
Nice.
Grip strength. So we did grip. So we've got a grip strength like meter,
mm-hmm.
and then they've also printed out essentially like what bands you would be in like what percentile.
Yeah. Like compared to height and weight sort of thing.
Yeah. I scored 61.7 on my left hand, 63.4 on my right hand.
Mm-hmm.
Puts me in the 80th percentile.
Sweet.
Which is okay. Push-ups. So how many push-ups you can do. You're allowed to rest in the top position,
mm-hmm.
but you can't rest. You obviously can't lie down.
Yeah.
I did 65.
Wow. In one set?
One set.
That's impressive.
I thought 50 was going to be okay. Now, it's funny. I did that today. No joke. I went up a cup size.
Yeah.
Like I was, by the end of it, I was a solid C cup.
Nice.
Like a solid C. And I couldn't put my arms sort of forward without like my chest starting to sort of spasm.
Yep. You've got to start filming guys looking at you at the gym and calling them perverts.
Yeah, eyes up here.
Yeah.
Eyes up
I
here.
have a boyfriend.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I didn't do was I haven't done yet, which is my deadlift. I'm not now. I was supposed to do it today, but I think of I had a little bit of pressure in my back. I think from the military press yesterday, I must have stacked my back a bit, so I just didn't feel primed to do.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like
back to back for back.
It's not the right thing to try to push for your heaviest ever deadlift when you're compromised already.
Yeah. But overall, like, I'm essentially up in everything. Oh, sorry, my deadlift, I'm not expecting my deadlift to go up because I've rebuilt my technique.
Right.
So essentially I've started again in this block.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm not expecting a big one, but the form's going to be much better. The basis is going to be much better because my challenge for the next 6 months is to get the 500 kilo challenge, which is bench, dead, and squat to add up to 500 kilos.
Yeah.
So what am I now? I'm 140 bench. Call it 160 and 160 at the moment.
Yep.
I kind of need to get, if I can do 145 on the bench or 150, 180 dead, 170 squat, then that's 500 kilos.
Just go 200 bench and 150 on the other two, and you're there.
I mean, I would prefer that.
You're on your way.
I would prefer that. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. That's really, really good. And like, on that note, like it's so important to measure things in everything in life, right? And you don't know how far you've come if you don't actually measure it and keep track of the things that you were doing in the past. And for like long-term listeners of the show, they'll remember, like, go back on YouTube, go back and look at the first episodes of the show. We were fat as fuck 4 years ago. Well, it's 5 years ago now, just about. And it just shows you what you can actually do if you commit for a long term and you have a plan. And can you shout out your gym? Because I think your gym's got a great environment, and anyone in the Brisbane area should probably check them out.
Yeah, Wink Fit Gym in Kelvin Grove. One of the things I like, now it's expensive, but what I like about it is the level of attention you get. So there is set programs. They tell you how to do everything, but if you've got a little issue, for example, like, a little niggle in your shoulder, they'll build something around it. It's essentially diet personal training.
Right.
So a personal training session is probably $150 these days.
Yep.
For an hour. I think I pay like $75 for the week.
Yep.
And I go 3 to 5 times a week.
Yep.
And you really get that attention. And my results are like, I've never been stronger in my life. And I've never had, they tell you the right ways to track things. They promoted me to get DEXA scans. I did find out that I'm up 3 kilos, and it's not a good 3 kilos because I've had a ultra indulgent couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's a good, like, sort of, oh shit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reminder.
Get your head back in the game, And now that sort of testing's over, like, I'll get back to the diet.
But it's a double-edged sword when you're aiming for strength gains, because if you really want to get really, really strong, you've got to eat the calories.
Sure, but I'm also an old guy too. I kind of thought once I got down to like 90, I was happy at 97 kilos. I was looking good, I was feeling good, my clothes fit nicely, I liked that. And then I thought, oh, now that I'm there, like, and I'm training, I'm golden. Wrong. 3 or 4 kilos hit me so fast.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be constantly vigilant.
I think we've got those Maori genes too, where it doesn't take much time doing the wrong things, and you pack the fat on pretty quick.
Dude, I'm talking to these young guys who are like, oh, I'm just trying to put weight on. Like, let's swap metabs. Let's swap metabs. How about I do meal plans?
I had a mate here yesterday who was helping me out with some work around the house, and we realised it was his birthday, so shout out to Brett, happy birthday, brother. And Amanda felt guilty and was like, oh, like, can I get you like some food, like we'll order some pizzas, get some dinner? And it's like, no. And like Amanda pushed on the pizza thing again, and he goes, I've had pizza every day this week. And I'm just like, fuck these people, right? Like, he's just one of those guys who he's just got the right metabolism, the right build, where he can eat garbage and just looks good all the time.
Yeah, but those guys are also like, oh, I just can't put mass on. I just can't get the muscle on.
Yeah, it goes either way, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of weights and exercise and everything like that, so I was actually out on a pre-show ruck earlier, and I had a bit of an experience which, when I rolled back through the play-by-play in my brain, it made a lot more sense. But I'm 90% sure that a lady who was walking about 100 meters in front of me on the back end of the walk was convinced that I was going to rape her. And I'm not joking. So basically, the reason why I think that is because at one point, so I do the same walk all the time around my neighborhood, and if you go out the back of my neighborhood between the golf course and there's like a pool, there's a sort of like a nature path area which is basically goes through a bunch of trees and stuff like that. Pretty dark. And anyway, there's this lady who's walking like, about 100 meters in front of me, and I could see her. I mean, you can tell like when women start like speeding up and stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, whatever, that's like, what, I get it.
And so in your mind, you're like, oh, this is a challenge. Like, she can set the pace. Yeah. She increases, I'll increase.
But when you get...
Let me see if I can catch it.
When you get out of that section, the pathway goes upwards a little bit towards the main road, and there's like walls on either side because there's houses on either side of the pathway. So it's a bit like condensed area. She starts running up that. And not only running, it's running... looking over her back shoulder.
Oh, no.
Right? Like, full on. And I was like, now, I get it. I look like a rapist. Like, I understand that. But then when I really thought back, it made a lot more sense. Because I went on a walk when you and I were discussing what time we were going to do the podcast. I'd already passed her previously. Then you texted me saying, you'll be ready at 10:30. So I turned around.
Oh, right? Okay.
And...
Because I was going to say, why didn't you just turn around and make her feel comfortable by turning around? But that would put you back in the wrong direction.
Correct. And also, I was pretty far away from the house at that point, so I turned around and sped up to try to get back to the house faster. So, I get it.
Do you know what? No one talks about that.
Yeah.
And we should bring it up here. Not enough people think about what men go through where Jason is perceived to be a rapist.
Yeah. Well, dude, it happens all the time.
Women never think about the fact that, we have to carry this. You guys just perceive that we're these evil people.
Yeah, we have to carry the burden of being...
Oftentimes when we're running, it's because we need to poo.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
But like, on that note, it's a sad reality of life for women, and I totally get it. Like, I'm not offended by it or anything like that. I totally understand it. I remember, I think I've told the story on the pod before, but years ago when I tore my ACL, and I was at that moment
you couldn't rape a fly.
Yeah. I used to live in Labrador and take my dog for night walks every night, and we had this like local dog park, which was just the woods essentially, and it was pitch black and whatever. And my wife. Well, my now wife used to say to me, like, I don't, like, why do you do that? Like, I can't believe that you just go out walking the streets at night time and going through this wooded area, which, like, is literally like a rapist paradise, and never bothered me. And then I tore my ACL and was physically compromised, and that was the first moment in my life where I was like, I finally understand what it's like to be a woman.
Yeah.
Like, I get it now, because I'm vulnerable. If something happens, there's not a lot I can do about it. And that really gave me that perspective shift that and that understanding and empathy that I probably lacked to a degree beforehand.
Yeah. That's why it pays to be. It's the Zombieland thing. What's the first rule of when the zombie apocalypse hits?
Yeah, well,
cardio.
Yeah, so dude, this is the only thing you don't do.
I'm big.
You're just gonna push all the zombies away.
Yeah, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bench them. I heard a great term this week, which is elbow squats.
Mm.
So bench presses can be referred to as elbow squats. I'm going to elbow squat the
zombies away.
Zombies away.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, speaking of rapists, the Diddy results came in.
Yeah.
And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I think it is something that's a little bit interesting and relevant, and maybe has some further ramifications for things moving forward. Can we just actually hold on. Let me sort out my stuff on this end. Here we go. That's a little bit better. All right, so
I have to say, just a side topic, and this might be a bit of inside baseball, but I'm literally about to hit someone up for potential sponsorship for this show.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I need to ask before this episode comes out who's spoken for 10 minutes about rape.
Yeah. Now, just for the record, I didn't rape anyone. I just want people to know that. I'm not talking about Diddy because I empathise with Diddy. All right, so the Diddy verdict raises questions over domestic abuse, power, and coercion. Hold on, can I get rid of this thing? Go away. Go away. Sorry, bear with me, video viewers. Anyway, okay, here we go. The jury's decision highlights the complexities of intimate partner violence and the legacy of the Me Too movement. The trial of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has culminated in a verdict after more than 7 weeks of intense media scrutiny and testimony about drug-fueled celebrity sex parties. But beneath the salacious details, advocates say there are critical takeaways about how sexual violence is understood and sometimes tolerated within the criminal justice system. Just continue on. On Wednesday, a federal jury in the United States delivered a split decision. It found Combs guilty of transporting individuals to engage in prostitution, but not guilty of the weightier question of whether he engaged in sex trafficking or racketeering for flying girlfriends and sex workers to the parties he organised. Prosecutors had described Combs' activity as a, in quotes, criminal enterprise in which he leveraged money, power and physical violence to force former girlfriends into abusive circumstances. The split ruling has, in turn, divided opinion about what the case means for the beleaguered Me Too movement, which emerged in the early 2010s to bring accountability to cases of sexual violence. For Emma Katz, a domestic abuse expert, the jury's decision indicates there are still yawning gaps in public understanding about sexual violence. That understanding, she maintains, is necessary to assess the behaviours that accompany long-term abuse and coercion, particularly between intimate partners. In quotes, "I think a ruling like this would be a good news kind of day for perpetrators," she told Al Jazeera. "The jury seems to have concluded that you can be a victim, a survivor, whose boss beats you in hotel corridors and has control over your life, but that you're not being coerced by him." Sort of feels like how when Queensland just brought in coercive control laws after coercively controlling the population for 3 years. In quotes, "So much of what perpetrators do that enables them to get away with their abuse, and what makes their abuse so horrific and so sustained, has not been acknowledged and has disappeared from the picture in this verdict," she added. A botched decision. How the jury arrived at its decision remains unknown. But prosecutors have been tasked with proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Combs used force, fraud, or coercion to compel his girlfriends into commercial sex acts. The case was centered largely on the testimony of two women, singer Cassandra Cassie Ventura, Fine, and a woman identified only by the pseudonym Jane. Both were identified as former girlfriends of Combs. The prosecution argued that Combs had used his financial influence, violence and threats of blackmail to coerce Ventura and other women to perform sex acts during parties known as freak-offs. The evidence included surveillance video from March 2016 of Combs beating Ventura in a hotel hallway and then dragging her away. Ventura herself gave harrowing testimony at the trial, saying she felt trapped in cycles of abuse. She explained that cycle involved regular threats of violence, including Combs stomping her on the face in a 2009 incident.
Anyone who's seen that footage too knows
it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. But the defence's arguments throughout the proceedings appear to have swayed the jury, according to Nima Rahmani, a former federal prosecutor. The defense blatantly admitted that Combs was abusive towards Ventura, as the surveillance footage had shown, but Combs' lawyers maintained there was no evidence he coerced Ventura into committing sexual acts against her will. The Los Angeles Times even quoted defense lawyer...
Hold on, just to pause on that for a moment. That is such a... This is where, like, the legal industry has not satisfactorily handled, is they've picked something so specific. So there's no evidence he coerced her into committing sexual acts against her will.
Yeah.
Yet all the other stuff is true.
Yeah, so
all the other bad stuff is true, but the one thing that they raised, the coercion aspect of it, they can essentially obfuscate that little part.
Yeah, and it doesn't take a psychologist to understand that if you have a long history of beating your partner if she doesn't do the things that you want her to do, and then you ask her to do a thing, she is probably more likely to do that thing, even if she doesn't want to do it. Yeah, you're right. Like, this is where, unfortunately, the legal process probably differs from societal understanding.
Or it's there is a power dynamic thing there where obviously Diddy's lawyers, I mean, he's got unlimited funds.
Yeah.
So he would have the best of the best of the best. And she probably doesn't have that.
Correct.
And so, they may have mistakenly brought essentially the wrong charge to the table, and which has got this result.
Yeah, and look, we don't need to keep reading through more of it because it's basically just keeps rehashing the same sort of stuff. But this is the very reason why victims of sexual assault don't come forwards.
Yeah.
Because why would you? Like, imagine you're her, Cassie Ventura, and we know the internet has seen the videos of her being savagely beaten by Diddy. And imagine coming forward now and being like, yeah, but you can't prove that he forced you to do any of these sex acts. It's like, look at the footage. Like, what could she have possibly done to have deserved that treatment in that hallway in the first place? And then all you have to do is apply logic to it and go, okay, Diddy is a big, powerful guy with lots of money, lots of connections, with credible rumors that he was involved in the high-profile deaths of rival gang members. What more evidence would you need to provide to show that, at least on a character basis, it is beyond a reasonable doubt that he may have coerced her into doing these things she didn't want to do? Yeah. So, look, I think it's a horrible decision, personally, for victims. And it's just one of those other things where, like what you were saying before, but on the flip side, if he was not a ultra-rich, elite person with all of the means and resources available to get the best possible legal protections, I think this case goes very differently, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I don't know if you've thought about this sort of vector, but the transportation of prostitution over state lines is the definition of sex
trafficking. That's right.
That's what the Tates have been done for.
That's right.
Well, they've been put up for
that's what they've been put up for. That's right. They are arguing that transporting a woman across state lines for the purposes of sex work is sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, maybe that legal not precedent or definition is different in Romania than it is in wherever this case was being tried.
Yeah. So it just pays to be rich and powerful.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what the other thing about this, which I find interesting as well, is we're not talking about all of the other more conspiratorial elements of Diddy's life and behaviours, right? Like the whole... When all of this stuff first came out, don't forget, there was the things about his houses being raided and like all the security footage being taken and high profile people being on there doing interesting things. Yeah. And as they sound, Adam Curry says on No Agenda, what's that in your mouth? No one's talking about any of that stuff now. It is just about this one particular... for audio listeners, I managed to say that just as Alex is taking a drink. That's called comedic timing. We almost saw what was in Alex's mouth just then. But that's the thing. No one's talking about all of the more sort of far-reaching aspects of this. So this, to me, is like the worst-case scenario. Because he's essentially being acquitted of all of the major crimes which that you rightfully said are the ones that they keep trying to put the Tates in prison for. And at the same time, this will add a chilling effect to to other victims to not come forward with their complaints against their abusers, because if this is the way that one of the most high-profile cases is being treated, well, what hope do you have if you're a nobody?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's... And now we're not talking about the, essentially, sex compromat organisation that everyone was saying that Diddy was running, just like what Epstein was, but in the music industry.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a token gesture.
Yeah.
So they got it for something, so everyone can say, hey, look, I've been through court and I did the punishment was handed to me and I've done that, and he can survive this.
That's right.
But he shouldn't, because he's a piece of shit.
And he gets to go through a court of law and say, look, the law says that I didn't do all of those bad things.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, I beat her. It was the one-time thing. The one time it was on camera, it's the only time it ever happened.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
there's no evidence that I ever did it any other time. Yeah, it's like worst case scenario for me. And honestly, this is the sort of stuff that makes me very, very sad about women's places in the world. I think it's really bad.
Yeah, it is incredibly difficult to navigate. And there's no right answer.
No.
Like,
because on the flip side too, if you make it too easy for victims to prove their cases beyond a reasonable doubt, then you get all the falsely accused people who end up being convicted of things that they didn't actually do. So it's such a hard thing, but I can totally understand why victims don't come forward, because what's the point?
Yeah.
You've already gone through a horrendous experience, and then you have to go through this process, which is a punishment in itself, where you air out all of your dirty laundry in a public hearing, and then you get nothing for it in the end. Like, you don't get justice. It's it's pretty bad. Anyway, that's enough on Diddy. The biggest story of this week is our eSafety Commissioner in Australia. Because there was a court case that we've been following, we've mentioned it a few times here on the show, but haven't gone into massive details, about an activist from Canada called Billboard Chris. I'm sure that many of you have actually heard of him before. He recently got arrested in Brisbane, which he also challenged that arrest and was issued an apology by our government. So Billboard Chris is an activist. He's essentially against transgender medicine for children. And if you don't know who he is, he's just a guy. He walks around, he wears billboards which say, like, children cannot consent to puberty blockers and things of that nature. And his whole and sole goal is to raise awareness by standing in public places, not harassing anyone. He will stand there quietly until people approach him to have conversations, and he films and he posts it online. And some of those conversations are really good, with people who maybe just don't even realize how prevalent the issue actually is in the first place. Yep. Some of those conversations are confrontations, when he is actually physically attacked by people who disagree with his views, which he's got multiple videos of, posted on his socials. And some of them are really harrowing when, like, I've seen some of his conversations with detransitioners. Have you ever seen any of those?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
So one of the things that really upsets me...
Those, I think, are the most important ones.
Absolutely. They're the ones that everyone needs to listen to, because this whole bullshit line of, like, oh, you just think trans people don't exist. Well, the people who say those lines also think that detransitioners don't exist. And their stories are the most harrowing stories. Like, I remember seeing one of him talking to this girl, and I think she would have been 19 or 20 at the time that she had the conversation with him, and she was going through detransitioning, but she was talking about how the fact that she had gender dysphoria at 12 years old, this is a Canadian girl, her liberal parents put her in front of a very, like, basically an activist psychologist who convinced her that she was born in the wrong body. She had a breast removed when she was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Like, these people are too young to smoke cigarettes, drive a car, drink alcohol, get a tattoo because it's too permanent. And yet this is what we're doing with kids. So anyway, that's who Billboard Chris is. And he came under the ire of our eSafety Commissioner, Julie Inman Grant, for a post that he put up about a gentleman named Teddy Cook. So I've got a news story.
Is this the right one?
So let's read through this thread. So Australia's eSafety Commissioner has just been named. Oh, sorry, no, this is not the right one. This isn't about the case. This is about something else, which is super convenient. That's not the right one either. That's just another data point that I want to add.
That's all I got.
Okay, I'll run through the court case briefly, and then we'll go through that other one first. So, what the court case was about, Billboard Chris put up a post which was him sharing someone else's post about a person from Australia called Teddy Cook. Teddy Cook is a female to male trans man who has been put on the expert body by the World Health Organization to help the WHO draft their transgender medical policies. Teddy Cook has been known to post things in regards to such topics as bestiality, and is not someone who is in a very sane frame of mind. So Billboard Chris's post essentially said, people who belong in an insane asylum are now writing policy for people who belong in an insane asylum. Right? Because essentially you've got a mentally unwell activist who is now, like, the World Health Organization is supposed to be the preeminent medical expert international board that knows everything about medicine, but their policies on transgenderism are being written by an activist. That's that's not okay. So that was what his post was about. Anyway, Teddy Cook's actually known to Julie Inman Grant. So when that post went up, she immediately sent a takedown notice to X to remove that post from the internet. But not even block it from Australia, block it internationally. So where this gets interesting is a few things. Number one, why is our eSafety Commissioner trying to censor speech in the first place? That's number one. Number two, our eSafety Commissioner is for Australia. So blocking posts from Australia, because you can geofence, so blocking posts from Australians is within her purview. She was trying to block this post from a Canadian. So it's a Canadian posting on an American corporation's platform. She was trying to block that post from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And so not only did she send the takedown notice, but she threatened X with an $800,000 fine if they didn't comply. To their credit, X challenged it in court. And the verdict was read this week, and the tribunal, the Australian tribunal that this was all held in, sided with X and with Billboard Chris. And the reasons why they sided with him for a start on the post itself was she was trying to essentially argue that he was attempting to harm her, or harm Teddy Cook, him, whatever, with the language that he was using. But what the judge ruled was that because Billboard Chris is consistent with his language, so he calls people who are born as a male, he calls them men, and people who are born as a female, he calls them women, and he believes that it is damaging and confusing to children if you do anything otherwise. He is consistent in that all the time. So the judge ruled that essentially because Billboard Chris did not know of Teddy Cook prior to seeing that post and sharing it, and because he is consistent with the way that he uses those pronouns, you cannot prove that he deliberately intended to harm Teddy Cook. Therefore, they sided with Billboard Chris, and they sided with X for not removing the post. But this is also where it gets interesting. So can you bring up the that second tweet that that you brought up? Because this is not the first time that the eSafety Commissioner has been beaten in court, even in recently. So this is from Nathan Livingston, who's Milk Bar TV. Follow him on Instagram. He's got some of the best mashup receipt videos that you can find.
Yeah, he's great.
He's really good. So Australia's eSafety Commissioner last year attempted to censor the Bishop Wakeley attack footage, Billboard Chris's post questioning trans identifying Teddy Cook's fitness to advise on health policy, Celine V. Machine's post reporting on a queer club in primary school. In all three cases, a court/tribunal ruled that Julie Inman Grant had acted outside of her powers as the eSafety Commissioner. Over and again, Australia's eSafety Commissioner has been found to be power-driven, overly censorious, and ideologically driven. It is well and truly time she stands down. Now, so that's all we need to read in that one. The thing that you need to keep in mind, guys, so Julie Inman Grant is an American citizen who, literally in her bio when she first got this job, it said that she had once applied for a job at the CIA and, in quotes, didn't get it.
Yeah. Right? I always put the jobs that I didn't get on my...
Yeah, she didn't get it. Because you always put the jobs that you applied for that didn't receive on your resume.
Yeah.
So she's an American citizen who's essentially been put into a position in Australia to censor what Australians can and cannot see online. She's a CIA plant.
100%.
And she uses your tax dollars to censor you online and to challenge you in court, even if she is operating outside of her powers as the eSafety Commissioner. Now, the other things you need to keep in mind, we are currently going through the trial phases for age verification for social media. She is the one who was running that program. She is in charge of it. She is also the one who just did a backflip last week on banning YouTube as part of that. So she backflipped, and now she wants YouTube to be included in the platforms that under 16s are banned from. So in other words, you've got someone who has already been proven multiple times to be acting in a way that is not consistent with her job she's a public service worker. She should have lost her job.
Yeah.
She should be gone. Right? Like, at the very least, they should say, okay, she is not acting within the boundaries of the position that she's been given. She needs to be removed and replaced with someone else who will. That's what happens at any other organization. If you keep bringing your organization into disrepute because you're doing the wrong thing, you will lose your job. She needs to go. And in my opinion...
I'm trying to find the eSafety Commissioner's budget.
Interesting.
And I cannot find it.
And I'm not surprised at all, because it's probably endless.
Well, in 2021, she did apply and received a large increase in her budget.
Yep.
But I'm on the eSafety Commissioner's Statement of Expectations for publication. I'm on the government website. I cannot find... I can't find the price.
She also wiped her complete social media presence off the internet when she first took that role over. And don't forget too, she used to work for Twitter. So she was working at Twitter when they were colluding with the US government to do censorship. She then, when Elon Musk took over, she lost her job at Twitter. So now it's not a coincidence that the one platform she continues to go after in her role that is funded by the Australian taxpayer, so she's got an unlimited budget for court cases, she keeps going after Elon Musk.
This is really concerning to me that I can't find the price. So isn't it? I thought all tax money has to be essentially accounted for.
Well, maybe she was originally funded by USAID.
Why can't I find that? I don't like that.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't. Now, it gets worse, because can you bring up the other post that I sent you? Because during this week as well, she's also been named in... Here we go. Australia's eSafety Commissioner has just been named in a US Congressional report for colluding with foreign governments and corporate cartels to censor American speech. This is a diplomatic scandal and a threat to free expression worldwide. So if you scroll down, we'll go through the thread. This isn't just a policy disagreement. Julie Inman Grant has been caught coordinating with global bureaucracies and corporate activists to pressure platforms like X to silence speech, even beyond Australian borders, and now the world is taking notice. The US House Judiciary Committee just published a 100-plus page report. It lays out how GARM, a World Economic Forum-linked advertising coalition, worked with Grant and others to blacklist voices they disagreed with under the guise of brand safety. The goal? Global censorship. Here's what the report says. eKaren, which is her nickname, coordinated with GARM to influence her regulatory decisions. She demanded global takedowns of content even in the US. She joined efforts to pressure X after the Musk takeover. Now, I want to read this bit. So it says... GARM colluded with both advertisers and foreign regulators to pressure Twitter to comply with GARM's demands. Specifically, documents received by the committee show that a European bureaucrat told the WFA that advertisers should pressure the European Commission to push Twitter to deliver on GARM asks. In Australia, eSafety Commissioner Julie Inman Grant relied on GARM to inform her, in quotes, engagement with Twitter and regulatory decisions, highlighting GARM's significant collective power in helping to hold the platforms to account. In another message on that email thread, GARM's initiative lead and co-founder Robert Rakowitz stated that silencing President Trump was his, in quotes, main thing, likening the president's rhetoric to a contagion that he must contain to protect infection overall. That was a direct email to Julie Inman Grant. So just on that note, ask yourself, why would you email if silencing Trump is your main thing, why are you emailing a chick who's got a position running eSafety in Australia?
Yeah. Well, this goes for anyone that's close to the way, Five Eyes works.
Yeah.
And so America has some pretty strict rules on personal freedoms for Americans. So they're not allowed to spy on their own citizens. So what do? You ask other countries to do it for you.
That's right, and then they can share information.
Yeah.
So GARM, just for anyone who isn't aware, is the Global Alliance of Responsible Media. Isn't that one of those dystopian names?
Yeah.
So let's continue. One example. After the stabbing of Bishop Mari Emanuel, Grant ordered X to block related content, not just in Australia, but globally. Even the victim opposed the censorship, and an Australian court later ruled against her, but the damage was done. This kind of pressure campaign sets a chilling precedent that unelected bureaucrats in Canberra can dictate what Americans are allowed to see online. No democratic nation should tolerate that. It's a direct violation of national sovereignty and free speech. The report also exposes GARM itself. It is a World Economic Forum-linked initiative, backed by corporate giants like Bud Light's AB InBev, Disney, MasterCard, and more. It aims to demonetize any content it deems, in quotes, harmful, including traditional views on gender, race, or faith. Far from being a neutral regulator, Julie Inman Grant openly praised GARM's power to, in quotes, hold platforms to account. She joined the very networks now exposed for manipulating media and advertising to advance ideological goals. This is not online safety, it's ideological control. So there's a copy of an email here from Julie Inman Grant to Rob Rakowitz, and it says, "Hi Rob, I saw the GARM post on LinkedIn and was really pleased to see this proactive approach. I'll be very interested in seeing your 6 points. I believe GARM has significant collective power in helping to hold the platforms to account, and I appreciate your informing the importance of both brand and platform safety. Interesting to hear your perspective on Blue and Birdwatch. It is very hard to piece together what seems like a very erratic and reactive strategy. On one hand, this could be seen as a very basic revenue-generating machination and a way to target the bots and scammers by undermining the economic incentive to mass create accounts, but they clearly haven't thought through the multiple spill-on events. I gather you saw that I wrote to Mr. Musk and was questioned about my thoughts at Senate estimates. Not sure I'll get an immediate response. Here is the letter since it is now in the public record." And just continue on. Australia's international standing is now at risk. We have a senior official actively undermining the principle of free expression and damaging relations with our most important ally in the process. This cannot be brushed aside. Anyway, he talks a little bit about other politicians and stuff a little bit after that. But essentially, so what you are seeing here, in my opinion, is this is the reason behind things like why COVID happened. So I saw a post this week, and I've almost commented on it, but I just thought it's probably not even worth it, from, the exercise scientist, was it Lane Norton?
Yeah, no, it's not Lane Norton, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, anyway, BioLane, I think, is his handle. Yeah. And
Here we go, I've just asked ChatGPT, because I couldn't get the answers.
Yep.
ChatGPT seems to be able to get past the guardrails. As of 2023-24 financial year, the Australian government significantly increased funding of the Office of the eSafety Commission. The agency base funding was quadrupled from $10.4 million to $42.5 million annually, providing greater financial stability to support its expanding roles in online safety regulation. That's 2023-24.
Right, okay.
In addition to the base funding, the government allocated an extra $132.1 million over 4 years to enhance eSafety's capabilities. This funding supports various initiatives, including expanding education and outreach programs, enhancing coordination with law enforcement to remove child sexual exploitation material, commissioning research and evaluations to guide policy, elevating the voices of young people in online safety development. These investments aim to bolster eSafety's commission to protect Australians from online harms and promoting safer digital environments.
So hold on, even just one thing on that. Why are we asking young people for their voices on online safety? Aren't we saying that young people don't know how the internet works? That's why we're restricting it from them?
Correct.
Right? So again, just think about that. We're in a cost of living crisis, and we have been, we were in 2023, and in 2023, during the cost of living crisis, the Albanese government thought the best allocation of funds was to give an additional $30 million a year to the eSafety Commissioner, who keeps getting proven wrong in court, in Australian courts, no less. This just gets you back to the fact that none of this censorship is about keeping people safe. None of it. She is clearly colluding with international organizations which are tied to giant corporations. She even says in her email, like, she's not focused on the safety of children, which is the whole point the eSafety Commissioner was created for in the first place. It was supposed to be keeping kids safe online and removing child sex material. That was the original purview. But now she's talking about brand safety online? How is brand safety relevant to a government worker?
Why is it $40 million a year?
Yeah, for what? Who does that, like, what's that for?
That's like, you could 5 people, or you could get an AI bot to scour the internet to find stuff that you didn't like.
Absolutely.
But $40 million a year?
Like, think
Plus.
about the technology that's available. Like, we spoke about on the show last week about how Meta got done for having that program which sensed when young girls deleted selfies off their profiles, and then it would feed them beauty-related content. So that technology is available. How hard would it be to create an AI bot that scans the internet for child abuse material and just deletes it? How hard would that be? It should be the easiest thing in the world, particularly with the way the AI is going. But we don't do that, right? None of that gets done.
Yeah.
All we're trying to do is censor speech.
Yeah. And all in one direction.
That's right. In the globalist direction. Like,
the best thing she should have done is stayed out of American business, because they've got a law protecting them.
Yeah, of course.
For the freedom of speech. Where if she didn't, like, she's essentially kicking the hornet's nest.
But that's right. But even, like, you look at the specific examples that she was essentially proven wrong in court. What was the point of censoring the Bishop Mari stabbing? Like, what was the point?
That they would say that they don't want to promote that stuff.
What did you say on the show last week? You're being sent violent content every day.
Yeah.
So it's all on there. What made that specific case different to anything else?
I don't know.
All I can say is the religious aspect. Like, mate, because, again, all of these globalists, they seem to be very pro-transgenders, like protecting people like Teddy Cook, who are writing policy for the World Health Organization, also spruiking the benefits of bestiality on their own social media. We want to protect those people, but I even wonder if, like, they're anti-religion. They don't want Bishop Mari to then stand up and do the fight like Trump did after he got, like, you know what I mean? Like the support that him and his religious beliefs may have received after doing, like, and he's appeared on podcasts and stuff since then and literally just said, like, he forgives the person. Like, he's not inviting revenge attacks or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's like being a true man of God and being like, I forgive him, but like, it was a really good advertisement for the church, to be perfectly frank. I'm not a religious man, but I was like, that's badass.
Yeah.
You know, if that's what religion is, like, maybe that might actually convert a few people. If we're so worried about the Andrew Tates of the world and their influence on kids, why are we literally censoring the polar opposite of those people?
Yeah, I mean, it is just it's such a crazy thing. This kind of fits in with a little bit of a experience I had during the week, where I was talking to the people in the gym about the fact that the speed limits are about to all be decreased and the fines are going to go up.
Yeah.
And essentially all but like one person, and he'll learn, he'll learn, kind of agreed that everyone knows that it's a road tax. It's not for saving lives.
That's right.
And one guy said to me, he goes, if you feel so strongly about it, like, why don't you, like, run for politics? And for a start, I have a plan. I actually do have a plan. I won't divulge it here yet. I do have a plan. There's multiple steps, but I need to get my house in order first before I can execute this plan. And it's very much centered around this. But I was also thinking about it. People aren't ready to hear my view of the world.
Yeah. We already experienced that during COVID.
Yeah. A great example I gave, I was like, we're building a society for the lowest common denominator. And I'll give you the perfect example. We can't have a ledge that isn't painted in a high visible color with extra sticky stuff on it because someone might fall off it.
Yeah.
That's the society we've built.
That's right.
and I think it's a very Australian thing. Like,
it is.
Other countries aren't like this.
No,
and this is where my frustration comes, is people, if you haven't travelled at all, or sorry, people who have travelled but haven't noticed these things, that Australia is essentially, 10-pin bowling with the bumpers up.
Yeah.
It's not real bowling. We have no tolerance for risk.
Yeah. And you're not allowed to hit the pins.
And you can't hit the pins, yeah, unless you pay the tax. But people haven't, in many ways, I feel like Morpheus from The Matrix.
Yeah.
So I'm telling people there's 2 pills that you can take.
Yep.
You can keep doing what you're doing now, or you can have a look at the things that I know, and you'll see the world in a very different light. Some people don't like it. Some people think it's much easier, and probably it is easier to live within the Matrix as long as you like being poor. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if you knew the things that I know, you wouldn't be doing the things you're doing.
Correct. Which
is probably the reason why you don't want to hear it.
Totally, because you'll have to change so much about the things that you do, the way you live.
Yeah, so this example. So we now have just learned right now together as a group that the eSafety Commission, which no one on the street would give 2 fucks about,
yep,
gets $40 million a year.
Correct.
Minimum. $40 million. We've got this cost of living thing, and there's literally not one government policy that's coming out to solve cost of living. Not one. No. Zero. Right? But they were more than happy to quadruple that budget.
Correct.
They were more than happy to impose a road tax on road users through fines, and everyone, the same drones in the comments. Well, if you don't speed, you don't have to worry.
We've got a productivity issue in this country.
But also they keep lowering the speed limit.
Yep.
So they're lowering the speed limit. So the definition of speed, of what you thought was speeding last year, is different to what it is this year.
Yep.
And they're going to tax you for the privilege of,
And it's nothing to do with safety, because like those speed limits were originally put in place with cars with 0 safety features in them.
Yeah.
Now we've got safety standards on cars, which means the safety of cars has come along astronomically in the last 20 years, and now we're lowering the speed limits.
The example I keep using is the Northern Territory was the only place in Australia that had a no speed limit.
Yeah.
There's a stretch of road that's unlimited. They used to do the Cannonball Run there, and they had some deaths, so they put the state limit 110 kilometres an hour. Death rate went up.
Right. Yep.
So they've since removed it. So there is data out there to support the fact that speed isn't a killer.
That's right.
There's all these other things. And I think the biggest part is the attention side. I'm a driving enthusiast, right? I'm going racing this week, and I'm a driving enthusiast.
Yep.
I can tell you that the near misses I've had is through lack of attention.
Correct.
Because the thing is boring.
Yep. I agree.
But I'll give you the tip. When you're driving on the Autobahn in Germany and you're doing 230 kilometers an hour, you are locked in.
Totally.
You are locked in, and the mistakes go away.
Yep.
You're not worried about what's on the radio. You're not texting your phone. But I see these drones driving around, and these drones, it's not the people's fault. It's the system's fault.
Correct.
The system has created this on purpose to now try and now they're bringing the threshold lower and lower and lower and lower so they can extract more and more and more from it.
Absolutely.
And if you only look at the policy for the first time and you go, oh, no, it makes sense, right? Like, we want to reduce the road toll, lower the speed limits. Cool. But then if you do any digging whatsoever and look at, there's no data point that's ever happened in Australia's history that has proven that makes it a safer place.
Yep.
And you look at the revenue raised, you look at the incentives that are in place for these agencies, you look at where the money goes. This is the most frustrating thing.
Yep.
And this is all part of my plan. Everyone assumes that infringement notices, fines go to road development. It does not. Your rego pays for road developments. So the pothole that you drove over to then get popped by the speed camera, that bill that they send you in 2 weeks' time when they say that every K over is a killer, but they won't stop you from speeding, they'll just send you a bill in the mail 2 weeks later. That money goes to other road safety initiatives which includes more speed cameras.
Yeah. Yeah.
So imagine paying a tax, and the tax is used to find out more ways to generate more tax from you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what speed
That's where
cameras
the investment's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But it's a way of thinking, and like there's other examples of this, like climate change is a perfect example. We have piled billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars into renewables, whilst being told that renewables are the cheapest form of energy, and then all the data shows that the energy prices keep going up as we switch off coal and switch to renewables. Like.
But we're just supposed to cop it.
That's right.
Oh yeah, it's cheaper. They'll keep saying it's cheaper. It's cheaper.
And they
but
sigh off you using guilt trips because won't somebody think of the children? Even another one. Look at melanoma rates in Australia. Melanoma rates have gone up year on year every year since we started doing slip, slop, slap in the 90s. Every year. I believe a lot of that has to do with vitamin D deficiency and carcinogens in sunscreens. Because that's what the data tells me. The less people have been in the sun and the more people who've been using sunscreens, the more melanoma we've been seeing in Australia. But again, what's the message? Slip, slop, slap. Oh, melanoma's getting worse. You've got to do more of it. Put more sunscreen on. Put the sunscreen on and then put a shirt on and then put a hat on. Like, it's...
That was the COVID thing too.
Totally.
Like, it was more shots.
Exactly.
Okay, so the 2 shots that we told you that you need, they're not enough. It's more of the thing that didn't work.
Correct. It's more of the thing that didn't work. You have to just do more of it. Keep doing more of it. It is the sort of thing, it's the definition of insanity. Trying the same thing and expecting a different result. And that's how our government operates.
But it's even
But it's on purpose.
Because they've literally built this reality. And like I said, most people, if you're working hard to try to provide for your family, you don't have the mental capacity to look into these things, to think about these topics, you're going to be stuck in that hamster wheel.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if you knew the things that I know, you wouldn't do the things that you do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll give you a perfect example right now. This is one that I'm having constant arguments with young people over. Young people still think that right now they have to buy a house, otherwise they're going to miss out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are signing up to the Matrix.
Yep.
So if you're Morpheus, so in that scenario, not only are you taking the blue pill, but you've asked for a prescription for the next 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep blue pilling me, dude.
Yeah.
Keep blue pilling me.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is you can do your own research just on the finer points of money, learning about how money works, and you go, oh, dude, that's crazy.
You just have to start with the question you asked the viewers weeks ago. How is money created in Australia? That's where you have to start. Because until you understand that, none of the rest of it makes sense. But as soon as you understand that, everything else makes sense.
Totally.
So find out how is money created in Australia. And then
also,
all of a sudden,
way,
you'll become an overnight Bitcoin maximalist just like us.
They're talking about 6 potential rate cuts in the United States,
right?
And then rate cuts here in Australia.
Yeah.
And that is going to send property prices through the roof.
Yep.
Now, I know someone that listens to this show that's going to hear this part. You told me you would have fixed your rate, so you haven't done any of the if society's telling you to do something, it's to benefit them, not to benefit you.
Yeah. I saw a post the other day online. I can't remember the specifics of it, but it was like, if you had invested money in the stock market every single time MSNBC said that there was a liquidation event coming, your average return on investment would be 40% per annum at 100% hit rate.
Yeah.
So that's, like, we talk about this all the time. The system is literally set up to benefit the few at the top at our expense. Also,
do your research about property in Australia and understand who owns realestate.com, Channel 9 News, all the newspapers. Every time they spruik it, one of my a fan of the show, shout out Paulie, he sent me this one. I cracked up. He does this all the time, but it never, ever, ever gets old. If I can figure out how to use Messenger does my head in. So there was an article, Channel 7 put on this story. This guy is selling his family home to buy 5 investment properties prior to the Olympic Games because he's going to make absolute bank. Paulie texts me. He goes, get in quick. I think we're the first to know. Like, we need to act fast before everyone else finds out.
Yeah, yep.
And then I text back, holy shit, I'll go to the bank and get them to tell me exactly how close to financial ruin I can get as a monthly payment. Which is what we do. And all you suckers that are going, that are lining up to these banks to decide, okay, just shy, like absolute maximum affordability, give me that, tell me that's what I can spend, and I'll spend that. And I'll sign up to that agreement for the next 30 years. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, as soon as I get that mortgage, the money so I give the bank my deposit, $200,000. The other $800,000 that you're going to sell back to me at 6%, you literally said Control-C, Control-V, and you printed it as thin air, and you sell it back to me.
Yep.
And you're happy to take that deal.
And you increase the monetary supply and you deflate the currency every single time you do that. That's how money is created in Australia, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Bitcoin's on a race to infinity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best thing about it. Like, I was talking to that mate of mine yesterday, and I said, like, just give, at some point we'll get together, give me 20 minutes to explain to you how the world really works, and you'll be convinced to start buying Bitcoin. And the best thing about it, it's not like the share market. There's no gatekeepers where you have to buy minimum $500 worth of shares at a time or anything like that. You can buy $1 a day if you want in Bitcoin and just hold it, because our currencies are on a race to zero as far as value goes. And Bitcoin, it's not Bitcoin increasing in value. It's the fiat currencies used to buy Bitcoin deflating at a rate of knots. That's where the value comes from. It's a hedge against deflation.
I said to Jason this morning, I sold some shares yesterday, and they sold at like 10 o'clock yesterday. It's sitting in unsettled I want to pull the money out.
Yep.
I checked it before we started this show. 24 hours later, it's still not available for me to pull out.
Yeah. Yep.
Whereas like Bitcoin, I can go sell funds.
Yep.
They're already there.
Yep.
And then I can go straight from, an exchange to out into cash.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do it. I could have done it at midnight last night. I could have done it at 6 o'clock this morning.
Yep.
The share market, no, I've got to wait for it to open. Oh, the gates are shut.
Yeah,
to get on the stock market, gates are shut, mate.
Because you've got to let the big hedge funds trade between 9 and 10 o'clock before you're not allowed to start at 10.
Mate, it's 4 o'clock, mate. We've gone home.
Yeah.
We've closed the doors of the stock market at 4 o'clock.
That's right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. Like, and look, I think it's such a powerful thing because you're right. Like, I finally understood, particularly during COVID, that was when it really hit me, but I finally understood that scene from the first Matrix movie where Cypher wants to get sent back into the Matrix because he's had enough. It is the burden of getting unplugged from the Matrix and seeing the world for what it really is so heavy that a lot of people can't handle it. And a lot of people are probably right when they think that it'll be easier just to stay on the hamster wheel, stay broke for life, but not have to change any parts of their behaviors or what they do. And the best thing is that misery loves company, so that them and all their friends can sit around and all bitch about how miserable they are all the time, and they'll get some comfort out of the fact that at least everyone is losing just like them.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially in Australia where we've got tall poppy syndrome. You don't want to be a tall poppy, don't be that tall poppy. Everyone will hate you. Don't be the tall poppy. Don't stand out and improve your lot in life by going against the crowd. It is powerful. And again, like one of the best indicators, and like I talk about COVID all the time because it's one of the most significant things that ever happened to me in my lifetime. I had conversations with people about the vaccine rollout, trying to convince them not to take the vaccines. And you could see it in their minds. They knew I was right. But taking the vaccine was easier than having to have the difficult conversation at work, the difficult conversation with their friends or their partners or whatever. The social price they needed to pay to be able to do the thing that they knew was the best for them in the long run was too high a price.
I had people only recently reach out and say, I wish I'd never done it.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've heard people say, oh, it was all bullshit, but it takes a big person to admit that they'd made a mistake.
Yeah.
and I'm starting to get them now. They're like, I've got these problems, and I actually think it's attributed to it.
Yeah.
I should never have done it.
Yeah.
I should never have done it. And that's the system, dude. That's
totally.
You know, I draw upon this example a lot where hotels were trying to get people to reuse their towels.
Yep.
And there was a great experiment that was done. The most effective way to get people to reuse their towels was simply to put a note in there saying 9 out of 10 people decide to reuse their towels.
Correct.
Oh, I want to be one of them.
It's literally a video on manipulation, which I used to show in sales training when I was in the sales industry. Because it just steps it out, and it just shows that because we are social creatures, the most powerful manipulation technique that you can use on any human being is to tell them to do something because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. It's like that, was it on the Darren Brown episode where they put all these people in a waiting room? Everyone was an actor except the victim, essentially the victim.
Yep.
And they just got the actors to just stand up.
Yeah, there'd be like a beep, like a faint beep, and the actors would stand up. And then, like, the non-actor would just sit there and, like, be a little bit confused. And then you'd hear another beep, and everyone would sit down. And then after enough runs of that happening, the people who weren't the actors just started following what everyone was doing. Even though it was... And like, because he does that sort of stuff as like a selection process at the beginning of his shows, because he wants to find the people who are most susceptible to this sort of manipulation. Yep. So anyone who joins in, they end up going further through the process, and anyone who doesn't, which would have been you and I, we would have sat there, what are you fuckers doing?
Yeah, what are you guys doing standing up like idiots?
Yeah. So we wouldn't be included in the show. But
I can give you a real life example of this.
Yeah.
So me and some friends went to the Melbourne Formula One, and it's basically in the city. So we're staying inside the city. We walk out. There is a queue of people 5 wide and as far as you can see. And it's moving at probably half pace.
Right.
Obviously, because they're like a worm, right? They're stuck behind people. And one of the mates goes, oh, there's a line. And he tried to jump the back of it. I'm like, yeah, we're going to walk past this line.
Yeah.
We're going to walk past the line and get to where we're going. And he went, no, but the line, like, it's no line. Like, that's just drone mentality has just captured these people. Dude, we saved ourselves, like, no joke, because you have to line to the tram gets you to the track.
Yep.
We probably saved ourselves 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just because our brain went, just go around the line.
That's
like,
right.
That's a half-paced line that's built itself.
Yep.
Like ants. I ain't an ant. I'm a human being.
And don't you find it interesting too how there's cultural differences when it comes to those sorts of things? So that's a very Australian experience because we're rule followers because we've grown up in a nanny state. Whereas if you see Chinese people or Japanese people even or Indians, like when it comes to trying to like get on a train or get in line for something, they're always trying to push to the front. Because that's the culture over there. That's normal for them. And as an Australian, we go, oh, like, you know, they're trying to cut the line. But it's like, well, they're actually smart, like, really. They don't know you. They don't owe you anything. They're just going to go to the front because it serves them best.
I'm so acutely aware of this that, you know, like the cinemas where they've set up, like, the little cattle grid for you to walk through.
Yep.
I went to the movies once. There was no one waiting. I just want to buy some popcorn. So I literally just walked straight to the front. No one was in the line.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, sir, can you go?" And I'm like,
"No." Yeah.
No. And she's, "Oh, can you?" And like in her mind, she was locked in. He was supposed to go through the cattle trail to prove that he's a sheep. He's supposed to go through that. But he hasn't done it. I don't know if can I give this guy popcorn now? He hasn't.
Yeah, like, am I allowed to? Has he passed the test?
And she was really like sort of shaken up. I go to the counter and I got this guy and he's like, huh. Like he realised how ridiculous her request was.
Yeah.
And then I turn around and there's people trotting through the line.
Yeah.
Now I know so that traffic calming device is to help get a large group of people into a small amount of space.
Correct.
I get that.
Yeah.
But if there's no people there, I don't need it.
That's right. Yeah, you don't.
It's like being in your car, and my mates hate this, but I only indicate if it's required.
Yeah.
Like, if it's going to help someone, otherwise, it's a tree falling in the forest by itself.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? So, if I don't need to indicate it, I don't indicate it.
Yeah.
But people go, oh, you didn't indicate there. You're supposed to indicate.
It's like the people still driving around wearing a mask in the car alone.
Yeah. There's just so many aspects of reality.
So I want to make a point on this.
Unaware of.
I want to make a point of this for the parents who are listening, because this is something I think about constantly as a parent. So I've probably said this on the show before. I've had this conversation with Alex a million times. I'm a somewhat arrogant person, and always have been.
Are ya?
Somewhat. And it has served me well at various times in my life. And it's been things like... I thought you were giving me a beat to rip to. No, it served me well at various points in my life. And it's been a lot of things like, for example, I was fairly successful when I was in sales, and it was because I advocated for myself. So I pushed against the grain, and I moved up the chain a little bit sooner than probably most people would have expected, purely because I pushed for it because of that arrogance. That served me well. It served me well. I mean, like COVID, best example. The number one reason why I had red flags to the vaccine at the beginning was because everyone was trying to fucking tell me to do something. I was like, nah, like, I don't do the peer pressure thing. Like, you can peer pressure everyone else as much as you want. If you try to put the pressure up on me, it's not going to work. I had an example this week, and it gave me the shits. I had some like minor plumbing work that I needed done around the house. So I tried to be a good citizen. So I just looked up plumbers in my area, because I like to keep my business local if I can, and call this company up. And as soon as they answered the phone, you could hear the sales technique starting. I'm like, this isn't a good start. And all I wanted was a few little things done. And I just said, look, I know you can't give me an exact quote over the phone. I said, this is not a price shopping exercise for me. All I want to know is roughly what it's going to cost, so that when I book you in on a day to come here, you can do a finalized quote and do the work on the day, because I'm self-employed and I don't want to take a day off work for you to rock up to do a quote and then another day off work for you to come and do the work, because that's going to cost me more money than the work itself. Oh, well, we don't really do quotes over the phone. I said, okay, but this is how I want it done. So if you want the business, like, let me know. So then they're like, oh, look, I'll get the manager to call me back. So anyway, manager calls me back. Just gives me the runaround again. And it's like, look, I've got someone in your area. Like, can they come in and do a quote? Okay, fine. They can drop in and do a quote. They get here. They have a look around at things to do. Then the guy goes, okay, look, I'm just going to go out to the car and I'll just get a quote together for you. So obviously he's calling the manager in the car. And then he comes back in, quotes me $1,300. Now, the job that I'm trying to get done is like a few leaking taps. I want some taps replaced. Like, it is not major stuff. So $1,300 he quotes me. And I just laughed in his face. And I said, oh, thanks, dude. See you later. Like, thanks for wasting my time. But that's a sales tactic, right?
Yeah.
That is, in sales, if you can get in front of someone, you can typically manipulate them into doing things which are bad for them, because as social creatures, human beings don't like saying no to each other, particularly to strangers, right? It is a well-known psychological principle. We know it because we're salespeople. Guess who else knows it? The fucking government. Guess who else knows it? The eSafety Commissioner. Which is why they're trying to make sure that you can only see the propaganda that serves them, not the propaganda that doesn't, right? That's what this is all about. So getting back to the parents thing, I've got 2 boys. They're very defiant at certain times. And the like tendency for me as a parent is to try to smack it out of them to make them easier for me to deal with. But it's not right for them in the long run. So there's a difference between not having any discipline, being rude, etc. Things, again, that will not serve them later in life. You have to have discipline. You have to have respect for people. You have to be likable. Those things are all really, really important. But completely smacking the defiance out of your kids, and I'm not saying physically smacking, I mean trying to remove that defiant behavior and thought process from your children completely, it won't serve them well in the Matrix. That's what the Matrix wants. The Matrix wants you to raise your children to go along with what everyone else is doing, because then they become the little economic batteries in the machine. That's what they want. So you actually need to be mindful of not removing all of that defiance from your kids, because that's what's going to keep them safe when they're adults. Like that, even just questioning what an authority figure might tell you to do will save them at some point down the track. So you need to be mindful of that in the way you parent too. It's really important.
Yeah. I have to go.
All right. We've got long enough. On that note, thank you very much for joining us, guys, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.